The village of Anu was a small village nestled between forests and mountains. Like every other village, Anu village had 3 categories of families: the rich, average, and poor. Only a small percentage of the families were known to be rich, and the greatest percentage were the poor families who always depended on the rich and average families for survival. One of the major occupations in Anu was farming. While the rich villagers owned many large plots of land, the average villagers owned 1 or 2 plots of land, which allowed them to plant crops in large quantities and harvest in large quantities as well. Some of the villagers who weren't farmers owned shops in the market, where they sold all kinds of things ranging from food to fabrics and shoes. In Anu, there lived a poor couple named Amara and Ozo. Amara and Ozo were both born into poor families, and since none of their parents could afford to leave any inheritance for them, Amara and Ozo struggled a lot from their childhood days. As husband and wife, Amara and Ozo worked hard and did everything they could to put food on their tables. Since Amara and Ozo could not afford to buy a piece of land and farm like the majority of the villagers did, the couple ended up doing all kinds of jobs, like planting and harvesting for people, clearing farmlands, washing clothes for the rich, and sometimes running little errands for other people just to survive. They were never ashamed to do odd jobs that most villagers refused to do. Out of all the poor people in the village of Anu, Amara and Ozo stood out because of their tattered clothes, unkempt hair, and constant begging for jobs. The couple only owned 3 clothes each, and one of those 3 clothes was their best, which they only wore to important functions and occasions. Because they could not afford to change their clothes like other villagers, the villagers would sometimes mock them and laugh at them for always wearing the same clothes over and over. Aside from mocking them for repeating old clothes, some other poor villagers also mocked Amara and Ozo's hut. Amara and Ozo lived in a very small hut, which could barely contain 2 adults. It wasn't like Amara and Ozo loved living in a small hut. They could not afford to build or buy a bigger one. In terms of food, Amara and Ozo only ate once a day, and it was usually in the evenings before they went to bed. The only time the couple could afford to eat meat was if they attended a ceremony in the village. Aside from that, they could not even afford to buy and cook meat for themselves because they earned very little money. Whenever Amara and Ozo were not doing odd jobs for the other villagers, they would go into the forest to search for firewood, which they would sell as an extra source of income. Since the village of Anu was surrounded by forests and mountains, sometimes it would take Amara and Ozo 1 to 2 days to find enough firewood. If it were during the rainy season, it would take them longer days compared to the dry season. Almost all the villagers in Anu knew Amara and Ozo as the couple who worked as hard as an elephant but ate like an ant. Most of the time, out of desperation, Amara and Ozo undercharged the villagers for their services just so they would have money to put food on their tables. In all the years Amara and Ozo did different works for the villagers, they never had issues with anyone until one day when something happened. That day, Amara and Ozo were supposed to complete clearing a farmland for which they had been paid in advance. But due to their hard labor, Amara fell very sick. Because Amara had fallen ill, Ozo could not leave his wife at home alone, so he ended up not going to complete his farm work that day. Later that evening, when the owner of the farmland, Mama Uche, saw that Amara and Ozo had not completed the work, she went to the couple's hut and began to abuse them. Even though the owner of the farmland saw that Amara was very ill, she still demanded that they refund her money, or else she would report them to the village head. Amara and Ozo knew that if Mama Uche reported them to the village head, they would not only refund the woman, but also pay a fine to the village head. Despite being sick, Amara begged the woman to give them more time, and she promised that they would complete the clearing of her farmland as soon as she was fine. But the woman refused to listen to her pleas. Instead, she told Amara and Ozo that she would be back in 2 days to get her money, and that she no longer needed them to complete the clearing of her farmland. After the woman left, Amara and Ozo were very heartbroken because they had been clearing that farmland for a week and 5 days. But just because of a day's delay, all their hard work and effort had been wasted. Also, aside from their hard work going down the drain, Amara and Ozo were very sad because they had put their hopes on the balance of the money the woman was supposed to pay them for the work. The couple had already planned that they would buy some food with the money that would last them for a few days until they got a new job. That night, Amara and Ozo slept in tears, and they cried to the gods of their land to end their suffering. When Amara woke up the following morning, all the pains she felt all over her body had disappeared. Even though Amara was glad that she was no longer sick, her heart was still sad because she kept thinking of how they would refund Mama Uche. While racking her head on what to do, Amara suggested that she and Ozo go into the forest to find some firewood that morning so they could return and sell it to the villagers. Even though Ozo knew that finding good and dry firewood was rare during the rainy season, he had no choice but to follow his wife to the forest. Initially, Amara expected that they would find some firewood before noon, so they would head back to the village since they needed to sell the firewood urgently. But after walking deep into the forest for hours, they could not find any good wood. Most of the wood they saw was very wet and unsuitable for firewood. "My husband, we have been walking for hours now and haven't found anything. What do we do?" Amara asked Ozo. "We just need to keep walking deeper into the forest. Maybe we will find something," Ozo answered. "But you know that if we pass that big tree there, we will no longer be in Anu," Amara said while pointing to a tree in front of them. "I know, but we don't have a choice. If Mama Uche comes back tomorrow morning, you know what will happen," Ozo said. And with that, they continued to walk deep into the forest. About 2 hours after Amara and Ozo had passed the big tree that marked the end of Anu village, Amara began to complain bitterly. "My husband, I don't think we will find any firewood. Please, let's go back. I am already tired and my legs are hurting. If Mama Uche comes tomorrow morning, I will beg her to give us more time," Amara said. "You know Mama Uche and her big mouth. She will tell the entire village that we did not complete our work, and you know what that means." Ozo tried to persuade her. "I promise you, if we walk further and we do not see any firewood, we will turn back," Ozo added. Amara was not the only one tired of walking deeper into the forest. Ozo was also exhausted, and he secretly prayed for them to stumble on a good tree they could use as firewood. "Do you see that?" Amara pointed at a small village as they walked deeper into the forest. "Yes, I do. But where is everyone? The village looks empty," Ozo said. "Maybe we should check it out. I never knew there was another village deep within this forest," Amara said. Without even waiting for Ozo's approval to check the village, Amara left Ozo and walked toward the village. A few minutes after Amara left Ozo, he joined her at the village's entrance, and the two of them walked in. "Hello? My name is Ozo, and this is my wife, Amara," We are villagers from Anu. We were just passing by when we saw your village, Ozo said at the top of his voice. Ozo expected that someone from the strange village would come out and talk to them, but no one did. Amara clapped her hands to announce their presence in the village, but no one still responded. I don't think there is anyone here. Maybe we should go back in case we are trespassing, Ozo said. You're right, my husband. Let's be on our way. No one knows if this is a spirit village and we are not even supposed to be here, Amara said in a scared tone. As soon as she said that, the couple turned around to walk out of the village, but then something mysterious happened. At the same entrance of the strange village that Amara and Ozo had passed before, they suddenly saw beautiful male and female clothes, male and female shoes, a basket filled with money, lots of gold and jewelry, 3 live goats and different types of food. Do you see what I'm seeing? Amara tapped Ozo's shoulder immediately she saw the things at the entrance. I can swear on my late mother's grave that these things were not here when we walked into this village, Amara added. This is impossible, Ozo said. What is impossible? Amara asked in a confused tone. Don't you know where we are? Remember the folk tales our late parents used to tell about a hidden spirit village in the forest full of riches that could make poor people very rich, Ozo said. But it can't be. I thought those stories were made up. What do we do now? Are all these things for us? Amara asked. Yes, they are. But we must thank the spirits before we take them, Ozo said. Without even waiting for Ozo to complete his sentence, Amara began to shout and thank the spirits of the village. She even jumped in excitement and rolled on the ground. Amara had not seen so much money, gold or jewelry in her whole life, and she could not believe they all belonged to her and her husband. After Amara and Ozo thanked the spirits of the village that had blessed them with so many gifts, they packed the clothes, shoes, jewelry, and everything else back to the village of Anu. By the time they got to their village, it was already night and everyone had gone into their huts, so no one saw them when they returned. That night, Amara and Ozo could not sleep. They still found it difficult to believe that their lives could change in the twinkle of an eye. The next morning, just as Amara and Ozo had predicted, Mama Uche, the landowner, showed up at their hut to get her refund. Immediately after Amara heard her voice, she went out and paid Mama Uche without saying a word to her. Shocked at Amara and Ozo's ability to raise her money in 2 days like she had said, Mama Uche left quietly. About a week after Amara and Ozo found the hidden village, the villagers of Anu began to notice a big difference about them. The villagers also began to ask questions when they saw the beautiful clothes and shoes Amara and Ozo wore instead of their old, tattered clothes. Not only that, but the villagers also noticed that Amara and Ozo no longer did the menial and odd jobs they used to do, and their lifestyle had improved. There were also rumors that Amara and Ozo had purchased a big plot of land and a big house. When the villagers saw that the couple were no longer the poor and wretched couple they used to be, they began to beg Amara and Ozo to show them their source of wealth. But Amara and Ozo insisted that the gods of their land had blessed them. 3 months after finding the hidden village, Amara and Ozo became one of the wealthiest couples in the village of Anu. While Amara and Ozo expected that the villagers would love them more and treat them better after they had become rich, they didn't know that some of the rich and average villagers were furious about their wealth. They were even plotting a means to expose and destroy Amara and Ozo's newly found wealth so they would return to the needy and poor couple they used to be. Watch out for part 2. Did you like this story? Tell us your favorite part in the comment section below. Please like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, do not forget to follow our channel on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you. And different